Hi, I'm Dusty with Magnum Bikes Product Support, and I want to talk about fenders. What's the rub with fenders? Well, most of our bikes come with an included front and rear fender integrated to the frame. They might be metal, they might be polycarbonate or plastic, depending on the bike. We choose metal or plastic depending on how durable or lightweight we want it to be. On the commuter bikes, you'll see that the fenders have a little more coverage, maybe going further down on the wheel, whereas on our mountain bikes, you'll see that they maybe go a little bit wider to avoid the spray of mud or debris from the tires. I'll also show you how to put a fender on and off a bike. This Ranger right here has a fender off. Our fenders come in a couple different styles, and they include mostly three components. The fender itself, a fender holder, which is like the wire that holds the fender in place, and then usually some kind of fender clip, which is the bracket that holds the holder to the fender. Something to keep in mind is that your fender has some adjustments to make. There's a slot in the mount for the fender here on the fork, meaning your fender can go a little higher or lower above the tire to make room for rocks, or if you change to a different tire that has more tread or a little bit different width or volume, you want to make sure that you can adjust it to make room for that. Some of the fenders, too, may not have an adjustment, but have a steel fender holder. And this kind of fender holder can be bent just a little bit. If your fender is rubbing on your tire, it could be the fender needs to just be tweaked a little bit or adjusted. It could be a sign that your wheel needs trued too. So it could be not a symptom of a fender issue, but a symptom of equal and accurate tension and truing in your wheel. So you may need to get that checked out. One way to tell is if you spun the wheel and your tire was wobbling and you heard the rub on the fender going in line with that, then you know that you have more of a wheel or tire issue than you do a fender issue. There are a few of our older mountain bikes that don't come with fenders, like the Summit. There are aftermarket fenders from companies like SKS and others that you can mount to the underside of the fork and to the rear of the frame. Let's install this front fender on a Ranger. Now we chose the Ranger because it's very similar to many of our new bikes, and all of our fenders are going to share a few things in common with a few differences. All of our fenders are going to have a tab on the front fender here, which mounts on the back of the fork arch. And then most of them will have some kind of strut and a way to mount down below. So let's get started. Now keep in mind, this may be easier on a new bike out of the box if the front wheel is off. For complete instructions on how to do it on a new bike, you can see those on our assembly videos on our website. All right, let's mount this fender on the back of the fork first. Now keep in mind, your bike may be slightly different. This Ranger has a big bolt that goes all the way through, and there's a nut to go on the other side. Some of our bikes have a shorter bolt that just threads into the backside, so be wary of what yours has. On all the bikes, this tab is gonna go on the back of the brake arch, not on the front. So on this bike, it also includes the light. See, the light has this mount. The bolt is going to go through both the fender and the light. So it's a little bit tricky. It doesn't hurt to have an extra hand, so you certainly could. If you have a friend nearby who owes you a favor, call in that favor now. I don't have any friends, so I'm just gonna get this done myself. I am going to say that I'm gonna do the fender first, and then the light. You can see I'm kind of using the bolt to hang the fender. This one has a big washer on the back to keep the nut from pulling through both of these. And you're gonna need a wrench to hold the bolt, Allen wrench. This one's a 5mm. Most of them would be a 5mm. There might be a 4 on a few bikes. And then you'll want something to hold the nut. So I'm gonna hold this nut still. I'm gonna tighten it just a little bit before I adjust it. And at this stage, you can still kind of slide that fender up and down. This is important to keep in mind after you've had your bike a long time. Maybe you wear the tires down and you get a different tire. It may fit differently. It may be a different volume or have some knobs, and you may need to adjust your fenders up. And keep in mind too, you can't go too big on your tires because your fenders won't work unless you take your fenders off your bike. So I like where this fender's at on the Ranger in particular. We have lots of space actually here. Next, we'll mount the fender strut or fender holder to the fork. Many of our new bikes have this nice sliding connector that mounts to a circular clamp on the fork. which is really great because you can adjust how low and high it sits on the fork, and it doesn't scratch your finish on your fork. Some of our older bikes and newer, simpler connections will bolt straight to the fork, and then our new Peak T5 and T7 mountain bike, they only have one mount up on the top. So you will need an Allen wrench and an open wrench or combination wrench. In this one, I have a nice little crescent wrench from Park Tool. Really great brand, by the way. This one is a 3mm Allen. I'm gonna open up this clamp and try not to lose my hardware. And if from the factory, your little connector here isn't moving around, you can loosen that with a 2.5mm Allen wrench. And I'm just gonna put this in the middle and make a little sandwich. Push that bolt through. Make sure and get your washer on the back. You wanna hang on to your washers. They keep the plastic from getting damaged by the hardware. Always good. Get that going, get it threaded. And we don't wanna go too tight on this since some of this is polycarbonate pinched by metal hardware. So I went tight enough that that's not going anywhere, but not so tight that it cracked any of my connections there. And then this is actually kind of tight, but you can see how this would actually telescope, and you can adjust where the fender is gonna sit, how high off of the wheel it's gonna sit. And depending on how short or long you go on each side, you can adjust the centering of the fender that way. So these telescoping connections on our new bikes are really handy. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, being mindful of how close that's sitting to the tire. All right, moving on to the other side, I am gonna loosen this telescoping clamp just a little bit to give myself options when I'm putting it on. And you can see that that just pulls right off the end and has a little clamp on it. Loosen my long bolt on the fork clamp. And we're gonna make a little sandwich just like we did before. This one is a little harder with the brake hose and the spokes. Be mindful of your brake rotor. They're really sharp. Now this telescoping part is still loose so that I can make sure that on each side I have a nice distance from my tire, and it looks really good. I have about 1.5 inches and they're about the same as well. So it seems like I have good symmetry. I got that all tight, and then I may just give a good ring to make sure nothing's rattling and shaking. And then I would take this on a ride too. One thing I like to make sure of is that if you're on a ride, your headlight is not tilting up and down or rotating, and you got this upper mount nice and tight. My fender's not rubbing on my tire at all, and I'm good to go. The rear fenders come pre-installed on all our bikes from the factory, except for our mountain bikes. If you have any other questions about your fenders though, or need some assistance, you can always reach out to Magnum Bikes customer support on our website, magnumbikes.com, or by phone. Thanks for watching. For more content, like and subscribe.